Well, I'm joined now by the Scottish musician Pat Kane, who's a board member for the Yes campaign. Well, Pat Kane, surely the leader headline in the Scotsman says it all. Salmon wobble. It's been a bit of a bad week for the Nats, hasn't it?
I think it's been a pretty good week for the Yes movement. I mean, the last time Tory politicians came up to Scotland and told us that we couldn't do this and we had to accept this, there was an ineluctable pressure towards the Scottish Parliament, which eventually came to be in 1999, not from a terribly enthusiastic Tony Blair, but the last time that happened, it led to a Scottish Parliament. Now that it's happening now, I think the direction is towards quite a big yes, but I'm really quite excited about this week.
Because you think people are feeling lectured, then?
Yeah, and I think it's really weird. It's a schizophrenic state of affairs, the Better Together campaign. 1 minute we're being love-bombed, and the next minute we're being told that we can't have a currency union, we can't have an energy market. Death, doom and disaster will follow any attempt for Scotland to control or make any full democratic decision over its economic affairs. They really are falling apart.
Well, it's a pretty brutal business, though, isn't it, politics? And if you look at the negative campaigning in the last few months, I mean, the polls, the pro-unionists are ahead, so that would suggest negative campaigning is working, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the positive campaign isn't just based on kind of warm words and hand-waving. It's based on the idea that Scotland stands and looks around itself in the world and says there is, for example, 4 Scandinavian nations who are at the top of all indicators, social and economic indicators. Let's head in that direction now. In order to head in that direction, we need the full powers of independence. And I'm part of the Yes campaign, and it's quite interesting. I mean, the Yes campaign from the very get-go has been composed of people who are kind of anticipating what a future Scottish politics is going to be like. We have people who have about 3 or 4 different positions on currency within the actual organisation itself. So really, there's a lot of relaxedness about how we go forward and how we solve these problems.
Well, is that relaxedness or is that confusion? Because you can't actually tell the Scottish people what currency they're going to have in their pockets, can you?
Well, you can't. The point about the currency question is it's a pragmatic question. What is the best conditions within which not just Scotland will thrive, but the rest of the UK will thrive post-independence? I mean, my position is I think a sterling zone is a good idea for the first couple of years of how Scotland and England will go forward, but like my Green compatriots and like my Green SSP comrades, I think we'll need to look at it again if the prevailing conditions change. It's a pragmatic question, it's not a dogmatic question. And the one thing I would say about a currency union, if you look at it through history, whether you're looking at, say, the Benelux one, that worked pretty well, you're looking at the Czechoslovak breakup, that didn't work so well. It works well when there is trust and mutual respect on both sides. It's a complex affair, but if there's mutual respect on both sides, then it works. We haven't seen very much mutual respect coming up from George Osborne's sermon on the pound last week in Edinburgh.
But surely, what makes you think that if there's a yes vote, that George Osborne or David Cameron will suddenly back down? I mean, ultimately it comes down to who's going to blink first, doesn't it? What makes you think that they will?
There's nothing really stronger than a nation that decides that it has to have the full powers of a nation state. Once that yes vote is in, and I think it will be in resoundingly from this week rather than mildly, lots of things change. The world rearranges itself around the force of self-determination, national self-determination. So I think a yes will result in the best optimal relationship between Scotland and England, and I think Scots will go into it with full constructiveness. I hope, and a sinner can repenteth, as they say in Scotland, I hope the British government changes its mind and attitude on that.
Pat Kane, thank you very much for joining me.